Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thank you, as always, for making your way here, checking out the series. You know what to do. You like what you see, what you hear. Hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. You can do the audio versions at iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, Podchaser, NPR, or here at YouTube for the video versions. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, my guest, Jared Leto. I'm going to be talking to the amazing actor about his latest, it's a miniseries. It's a miniseries on Apple TV called WeCrashed. Now, if you know about WeWork, the whole thing that happened over the last decade with Adam Neumann, then you kind of know what this series is about. Leto plays Neumann, the Israeli billionaire businessman, and we're going to get into that. What drew him to this script, what it was like coming up with that accent. You know, he was coming right off of House of Gucci, playing Paolo Gucci, so going from that Italian accent straight into the Israeli accent. You're going to get all of that, starring opposite Anne Hathaway. She's also in this series as well. But of course, we're also going to talk a little bit about music, at least 30 Seconds to Mars. It's been, what has it been, 4 years at least since the last album, America? There's new music on the way. We're going to get into that as well. But let's do this and talk WeCrashed. It's Kyle Meredith with Jared Leto. Hello, Jared.
Kyle.
Pleasure to meet you.
How are you?
Doing great.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for doing this. A big congrats on WeCrashed. I had to remind myself about halfway through that first episode that it was you, because you were totally, I think that's what we're all looking for. I'm sure that's what you're looking for as a fan or as an actor. But I got to start with the obvious question then. Why this script? What drew you to this? Because what an incredible story, I guess.
I mean, that's what drew me to it. Incredible story, fascinating circumstances, really compelling characters. I loved that it was a really modern story. We were shooting some scenes that took place in 2019. So it was, I'd never done that before, told a story that was so fresh off the presses. And yeah, I mean, I'm also really interested in immersive work and character work, and I love that kind of challenge. I love that process. I'm fascinated by it. And having come from House of Gucci, playing Paolo, into Adam Neumann was just such a long run in between those two characters, and I just really was psyched to have that kind of opportunity.
Yeah, to play real life people too, and not just real life people, but someone who's actually still alive.
Yeah,
like does that make anything different for you, knowing that person is still out there, that they're going to see this?
I think it probably does in some way. I mean, I feel like anytime I play a real person, I have an obligation to really do the work, to do the diligence, to dive as deep as possible and bring to the screen as accurate a portrayal as I can, with dignity and with grace and with respect, but without pulling punches as well. You know, but this is not a documentary. It's a film. It's a painting, not a photograph, and it's impressionistic at best. It'll never really be Adam. But I was really fascinated by playing a person, a modern story and a modern person, and so much material to pull from. I mean, so many interviews and so many books and podcasts. It was just a really ripe one as far as character and research went.
Yeah. What's interesting about this show with WeCrashed that I sort of found myself noticing throughout it, or at least how I saw it anyway, was that it wasn't telling me this is a good person or it's a bad person. You kind of I felt like I was able to make up my mind. Like, this guy does seem crazy and narcissistic sometimes, but then again, I also, was I rooting for them at some point? For you going into this, like, who is Adam to you? And do you felt like you had to pick a side on who he was, good or bad?
No, I mean, I think we're all complicated, and I was intent on not just being part of a takedown piece. I really wanted to explore the humanity of the character, the complexity, the success and the failure. And I feel like we did that. It's my job to find some understanding, to find some empathy with my characters, to find some insight into what makes people work. And this is just a great character. I mean, it really, no way, it's any way you look at it. He's a fascinating guy.
Do you feel like he's one of those characters? Like, does he have his rosebud that you've sort of got to keep in the back of your mind?
He's a bit of an anomaly, in many ways. It's hard to compare him to anyone else that I've played, but I feel like he's got a lot of story left in his life. Yeah.
It's interesting because you do hit on certain things, or at least the way I saw him, the self-importance. I mean, that's a big thing. This is a guy that at some point said he wanted to be president of the world and live forever, which are things that sound fun, but I think he meant them. When he was saying that. But when I'm watching you do this role, you never take it over the top, where I think a lot of people would. And I was watching an interview you did with Oscar Isaac, the actor on the actor. You were talking about how voice leads you into character a lot. And was that the case with this one? Obviously, you have an accent. I think he was originally Israeli, right? Like, how did you approach getting into the inside of him?
I mean, great questions. And I actually was doing Paolo Gucci and went straight to New York and right into this project. So it was a wild one to kind of go 180 like that into this Israeli accent and dialect. And, he had a very particular voice. Thankfully, there's so much material of him. I was just buried in material, which was great. And the voice was a key into the character for both of those roles. And oftentimes is for me. The voice is a really powerful kind of path into the character. And, I had a great team of Israelis that around me, so I could hear that voice all the day. I could hear it all day and working on accent and the script. And we really dove in deep. And it's important to me, too, is, to do a great job, not only for my own self and my own, just for me, but creatively, but also, to pay tribute to the dialect and the culture and the country that I might be doing an accent for, So I always feel like, the least you could do is do your fucking homework and make sure you do the best that you can. And by the way, if you can't do it, you need to raise your hand and say, hey, I, for some reason, I can't do this. Or someone close to you needs to tell you that, hey, listen, you got to figure something out. And unfortunately, I have those people that were helping me, guiding me, and pushing me in the right direction.
Yeah. Do you think of it as an impression? Are you doing an impression, or are you still allowing yourself to put something else in there?
It's not an impression. It's impressionistic, which is a big difference. Like I said, it's a painting, not a photograph. So it'll never really be Adam Neumann, but we hope to capture some spirit, some essence of who he is, who he may have been at that time, aspects of his personality and aspects of character. But never an impression. And I feel like, too, just to talk about what you said in the first half of that, it's like, life is over the top. There are successful business people out there that, if I did an impression of them, you'd be like, oh, that person's not real. They didn't say that. People are crazy. And as long as you're grounded in truth, and there is no over the top,
Well, it all comes, I felt, at just such an interesting time. This show specifically coming out right now. I wrote down at one point in one of my notes, this guy is selling a cure for loneliness, or at least that's what he's, maybe thinks. And And here we are, of course, coming out of the pandemic ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was any of actual, you talk about it being a current project and everything, but was any of that part of what you all were kind of injecting into this, knowing what was going on in the world?
Well, it was wild to be a part of a project that talked so much about community and culture when so many people were isolated. I mean, when I first arrived in New York, I remember like walking down Broadway at 2 in the afternoon, and there's like I didn't even have to look either way to see a car. I was like there was nobody around barely, and then it just kind of there was this spring awakening, and the city just came to life over the next 4 or 5 months, and it was pretty wild to witness that. But grateful to be working during that time, and it had its challenges, but it was also great for me because it made life, compartmentalized in a way that I could work even harder. I could focus with no distractions at all. And I really, with this project, I got to be honest, man, I just sacrificed everything in my life to focus on the work at hand. And I was really, it's a gift to be able to do that. And I was grateful that I had the opportunity in the space and time to do it.
Well, it's a beautiful project. I got to quickly mention the music in here too. What a hell of a great soundtrack. And then you've got DMC in there. You've got Q-Tip making an appearance. And I say this, from the musician side of your career, like how much stock do you take in that? Because every single time a song came on in this series, I was like, what a great choice for music in this. Do you pay attention to that side too?
Good. Yeah. I mean, that always helps. There's nothing like, the right piece of music with the right piece of film. It's transformative. Talk about like songs or score and how that can influence a performance or a film. It's just, it's just incredibly impactful. And it also helps evoke specific times in our lives. There's the kind of nostalgia that comes along, an emotional component. When you hear that right song at that right time, and it puts you back to that place in your life that you were. Yeah.
You and I had talked only once before over a phone interview, and that was for 30 Seconds to Mars, doing that last record, the America record. I'm such a big fan of what you do. Is there still room for that in your life right now? Are you thinking about that? Because I'm a greedy fan is what I'm getting at.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. And yes, I mean, during kind of, shutdown, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, I really, my brother and I just went to work and we wrote a couple hundred songs. And we're going to start releasing music as soon as Morbius comes out. I think we'll probably put music out. 30 Seconds to Mars will be back on the road where we usually are. But it's been hard for, so many, not just the artists, but the people that work at venues, the fans. There, so many people that have, like, they love to go to movies and they love to go to concerts. It's a big part of their life and their escape and how they connect with other people and how they have community, share community. And, there are a lot of local venues, small venues, of which I've played at many, all over the world that, suffered really badly. So I'm excited for things to kind of get back and, for people to be able to get back to what they love to do. And hopefully we'll get back to what we love to do and get out there on the road again soon too.
Well, I look forward to that. Again, I can't congratulate you enough. This was such an adventure ride, what you did in WeCrashed, and seeing you just lose yourself in that character, Jared. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about it. It's been a real pleasure.
See you next time, Kyle.
Hey, my thanks to Jared Leto for hanging out. WeCrashed, out now on Apple TV. Big thanks to you as well for checking out the series. Again, before you get out of here, I do hope you hit that subscribe button. 3 new interviews every single week. A new one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists and discover some new ones as well. Again, all the usual spots: iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, Podchaser, NPR. You're at YouTube for the video versions. Then after that, do me a favor. Head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, mostly on Twitter, sometimes on Facebook and Instagram, all three of them at Kyle Meredith. I do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.